Hello everyone, I'm really delighted to be part of this wonderful panel discussion and thank you for the invitation to provide some perspectives and of course greetings from the Pacific community on the important issue of ocean change and how it's impacting Pacific Island countries and territories. And I must say that it certainly is having a major impact. The ocean is at the heart of the Blue Pacific identity. Pacific Island peoples are ocean peoples. They're custodians of the great ocean space of the Pacific Ocean. But today, the ocean that sustains is becoming the ocean that threatens. And it's really telling that only a couple of days ago, the President of the Marshall Islands made a global call indicating that under the effects of climate change, his country would be swept away if the international community did not keep its promises. And part of what we do at the Pacific community is to help keep those promises. We put a climate and ocean lens over much of the work that we do in island environments to ensure that the very real and direct impact of climate and ocean change is taken into account and addressed. And I'd just like to give you some key examples of what it is that we're doing to demonstrate leadership and solutions across this space. In terms of protecting the sovereignty and integrity of our member states, we're doing some cutting-edge work on maritime boundaries and the impacts of climate change and sea level rise on those through our Resilient Base Points project that aims to secure those maritime boundaries and ensure that we get technical, legal and international law options that will preserve in an UNCLOS-compatible manner the sovereignty and the sovereign rights over maritime spaces of Pacific Island countries. In terms of food security, we do a lot of work through our Pacific Centre for Crops and Trees on atoll agriculture, on climate-resistant agriculture, helping to develop seed varieties that are resistant to more saline soils and more prevalent droughts. In the fisheries sector, under the effect of ocean acidification and climate change, we've published a lot of science on the vulnerability of coastal fisheries, looking at projections that say there'll be a loss of productivity of 10 to 20% by 2030 and up to 35% by 2050 in coastal fisheries in the Western Pacific. In oceanic fisheries, the science as well that we are doing is telling us that tuna stocks will be shifting east under a warming ocean over the course of this century, creating once again issues for food security and issues for the economies of Western Pacific countries. We're also working obviously to take into account climate-induced extreme weather events, whether that's tropical cyclones, storm surges, king tides, so that we can put that into coastal hazard mapping models, so that we can inform policy decisions on urban planning, on anticipation and mitigation of the effects of these disasters. And through all of this, we're supporting our member states and territories at international level in major global processes. The Pacific community was part of the Friends of Ocean and Climate group at COP25 that successfully negotiated an ocean outcome, the Subster Ocean Dialogue, in the final outcomes of the COP for the very first time. We're strong supporters of the Ocean Pathway, the Because the Ocean Initiative, the Ocean Climate Platform, and of course the International Alliance to Combat Ocean Acidification that convenes today's event. We're cooperating currently with the Commonwealth to support two action groups, one on ocean and climate, led by Fiji, and the other on sustainable coastal fisheries, led by Kiribati, under the Commonwealth Blue Charter. And we're partnering with the IOC of UNESCO on the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development to ensure that ocean science underpins policy and action, not only when it comes to the sustainable use and management of ocean resources, but also across all of the SDGs. So the challenges are huge, but the solutions are there. But when you overlay in the current context the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on island peoples and island economies, you can imagine how much more significant these challenges are and why we need urgent international cooperation, the spirit of multilateralism to support urgent action, not only to ensure that we save our ocean in the Blue Pacific, but also for the health of our global ocean and for a more sustainable future for our planet. Thank you.